Thanks for joining me. I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to take a look at Samus's new final smash for the new Smash Bros. Oh, sorry, no, we're taking a look at Samus's motorcycle. This is a request from one of the viewers of this channel. I'm going to point out a couple things in the trailer. I'm not really going to focus on the trailer that much. I'm going to explain a particular topic related to the motorcycle. There have been some people online that are wondering why the motorcycle, the motorbike, looks bad. Why does it look worse than the rest of the game? And this is something that was asked of me in the comments in one of my previous videos. So I'm going to explain that. I'm going to go over a couple details in the trailer, but more importantly, I want to discuss why is Nintendo giving all of their characters motorcycles? Generally, people will purchase a motorcycle when they are experiencing a midlife crisis. If you are young, you've probably heard of what a midlife crisis is. You've heard of it, but just because you've heard of something, just because you know about something, doesn't mean that you really understand it. And you won't really understand what a midlife crisis is until you experience it yourself. It's often something quite stressful and traumatic that tends to trigger a full-on midlife crisis. And as a result, many people will do things like get a tattoo, start skydiving, cave diving, or purchase a motorcycle and start riding a motorcycle. Now, a midlife crisis, it basically, when people realize that they don't have that much time left and they have reached a point where they've burned up about half of their lifespan, and that's that they're looking at the rest of their lives. And you often see people who start feeling that when they start losing their parents and they have to deal with the grief and the loss of their parents. And sometimes you can experience a dilemma like that sooner in your life. If you have friends and you've ever had to watch them suffer and die, if you've ever had to hold a friend's hand as they pass away, if you've ever had a friend tell you in confidence that they're afraid of death because they only have a couple months left to live, those sorts of things force you to experience a midlife crisis where you realize, I don't have much time left either. In the grand scheme of things, we don't get to live for that long. And when you fully, truly understand how much time you have left, how little time you have left, and how small you are, you start to realize what does and does not matter in your life. You will, unfortunately, it will be far too late by the time you realize that every stupid, ridiculous thing that you've argued about over the internet, everything you've thrown a tantrum over on the internet, oh, why is this company doing this? Why is that doing that? And then you waste hours of your life just obsessing over it. You are not going to realize until your deathbed how much you've wasted your life and how you wish you could go back and make use of the time that you had. Instead, you wasted it on complaining about companies doing lawsuits and patents, and you're crying like a little baby. You won't realize until much later in your life that you wasted your time, and you wish you would give anything if you could have your time back and just live your life, but you won't. So the motorbike is graphically reliant on detailed, dense, high-resolution textures, and that's why the motorbike, unfortunately, there's people that think that the motorbike does not look very good. Now, it's detail dense, and I'm going to approach this topic as a developer and as an artist. This is highly detail dense, but it's reliant on high resolution textures here. The overall shape of the bike is quite simple, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's easy to understand the shape of the bike. It's easy to look at it and to understand this is some sort of vehicle, right? Now, its complexity comes from the overall form. The shape, the overall shape of it is simple. The form is where the complexity is, where we have all these finer details and shapes. But it is it's very heavily reliant on high resolution textures. And I'll just go ahead and shrink myself down here. And if we have a look at the bike, there's very interesting shapes. I think it's quite interesting to look at. I think it looks good, but I want to explain why people feel like it does not look good. It relies on very specific lighting in order to look good. So we'll double back to that, but I just want to point a couple things out about the trailer here. This is actually quite low poly count. These models here, it's quite noticeable here. These are not high density in terms of poly count, and it shows to me that the developers are very cognizant and careful with how they use their rendering budget. These buildings are low resolution, but they're detailed in a way that it you don't necessarily are distracted by the low poly count detail. A less experienced developer would just use, you know, some advanced modeling program to do all the heavy lifting for them and to generate these in super high poly count, and then they would use it in Unreal 5. But these developers, this tells me that they're extremely careful. They really know what they're doing. Something I find interesting are these lightning effects. So I want to explain this as an artist and a developer. I think this is actually a quad. This whole thing is just two triangles squished together. It's a quad. You know, it's two polygons, and they are just running an animated texture down that. This is not an actual particle effect, and I believe that's what that is based on what I've seen here. We're going to see it here and here as well, and it's just animating the texture. It has some frames, and it's animating downwards. And this is a very efficient way to do this. It looks good, and it's easy to manage. It's scalable. It does not have a high rendering cost, and it's very easy to implement. And it looks fantastic. So I believe that is what they're doing here. So this is not actually a particle effect. It's not lighting. It's just a flat quad that's got a little animated texture, and then it offsets that texture there. It's cool. It's a frame animation and an offset. Very cool. I like that a lot. Okay. Now we'll look again at 19. It's designed specifically to look like Samus's armor. It all matches together, sort of. If you see the seams in Samus's suit, it matches this sort of like a carbon fiber lines and ridges. Very neat. I like that look. It's sleek. It's interesting when it's in the right light. And unfortunately, if the lighting is not perfect, then the details are not that visible. So something that I find quite interesting that I really like is the physics simulation. Let's go ahead and have a look as the front fork of the bike bounces up and down as it lands. We're going to see physics simulation all throughout. It looks neat. I really like that. I think they've done a great job with that. It reacts to the terrain colliders. It's not just going flat and smooth. It is reacting to the bumps on there. Looks very cool. Unfortunately, the design of the bike, it's designed to look good at a medium distance, but very, very close. This is where I think people say it looks bad, this particular kind of shot. And this is because the design of the bike overall is very reliant on high resolution textures, but when you are extremely close, the textures are not high resolution enough here. I think people are reacting negatively to seeing the bumpiness here. This is a result of texture filtering and texture compression. When a texture is applied to this, I believe it's coming from both the normal map and the albedo map, and you can see the pixelation and the bumpiness here. That's because the texture itself is not high resolution enough for this particular angle, this framing of the camera. And so the texture itself, you're seeing the compression and the filtering, and it just results in artifacting here. And I think that's why people are saying it does not look good. I think they do not like that this sort of hexagon look makes it look lower poly count. This kind of looks lower poly count here. At medium distances, you don't see these issues, but I think because this is not a flattering angle for the bike, people are responding negatively. The lighting in this scene is fine, but it's not very flattering to the particular details of the bike. I think if they had chosen multiple light sources with different color temperatures, this reveal would look more interesting. If there was a blue light, you know, sort of in the background, then a harsh yellow or a golden light coming from the front, I think would have been more flattering and interesting looking. So I think that's why people say this doesn't look very good here. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit, and we're going to look at two angles here that are just, they're so similar, but it really shows us what's wrong here. So at this particular angle, we see the details of this. This is a result of a normal map that defines the bumpiness. There appear to be specular. I'm not sure if there's a specular map or if they're just relying on just an overall. I think there's ambient occlusion. There would be specular maps. Now here's the thing. Again, depending on the angle, texture filtering has to sort of smoothen the graphics out a little bit. Texture filtering occurs at different angles and different distances in certain ways. So at certain angles, I'm going to point out the ridges here, the bumps on this handle bar, handle shell, handle mount. So at this specific frame, we see that. We can see it's catching light, we see the ridges in that, we see the detail, and that looks interesting. The problem is that once we reach a certain angle, the texture filtering that is part of the shader, it smoothens it out too much when the angle is a little too oblique. Just here, it's smoothened out. We no longer see the details, and texture filtering also becomes a bit more prevalent and intense when geometry is farther from the camera. Then we have lighting hitting that a certain way, and suddenly we don't see any more of the details, and it looks like this does not have any detail. On top of that, we have YouTube that sort of smoothens out stuff, and it's a real bummer that it obscures the details. But the main problem is that the design of the bike is reliant on high resolution textures, but when you are a certain distance from the camera, the texture filtering smoothens out those details and you can no longer see them. They are no longer present or no longer visible. And that's basically what we are seeing here. And we'll see at 38 seconds. I have a note here at 38 seconds. Here is where it looks fine. When it is a medium distance from the camera, we can see that. You can actually see the texture filtering take place here. This may be a result of anisotropic filtering. When geometry is oblique, it's sort of turned away from the camera, it really harshly smoothens things out. You can see the detail of the bike here, but once we are a certain distance and a certain angle from the camera, that is all smoothened out, and it looks like there is no texture here. It looks like there is no detail. We can barely see the bumps and ridges on the handle mount there. We can see the details here. This looks fine because, again, it's catching the light. You can see it's catching the reflection of a reflection probe or a cube map, so it acts like it's reflecting the sky. That's where it looks interesting, but that is not always visible because, again, once we are farther from the camera, it's smoothened out and you can no longer see it. See here, it looks like there's no detail at all. And here it looks like there's no detail at all. I really like the combat attacks here. It looks like you'll be able to do some fighting with the motorcycle, which is pretty cool. That's neat. That's basically my explanation for that. I'll point out something here. This makes me feel unwell. There is no safety railing. There's no reason why this can't have safety railing if this is meant to be a walkway. And if this was not meant to be a walkway, then what are you doing? Don't go on there. Look, the bridge fell. The bridge fell. You shouldn't have been on there. I'm just saying we could use more safety railing. Anyway, that is my explanation for why the bike looks bad. I think it looks cool, but yeah, at certain angles and distance from the camera, its details are obscured and then it looks more plain. I personally think it looks really cool. I think the developers here did a great job. I just want to explain why people feel like it doesn't look good compared to the rest of the game, which is a comment that I received. So let's, in summary, the bike relies heavily on high-resolution textures. Yeah, it relies on high-resolution textures to look interesting, and the textures are not really high enough resolution when the camera is extremely close. The texture filtering makes it look blocky when it's extremely up close, and then it's too smooth and it obscures the actual details when the motorcycle is too far from the viewing camera. The material for the light-colored part as well, the material of the light-colored part doesn't really catch the light. It doesn't reflect light in an interesting way, and it results in blown-out tones, it results in a loss of detail, and it makes it look quite plain. You can see this area here does seem to be catching the blue of the sky, so this is reflecting light in an interesting way. Now, in general, in games, when you have reflective surfaces or physically based shaders, darker colors are able to reflect things in an interesting way. But once you have a white color, you can't really go up from the color white. So lighter color things have a very hard time reflecting light and color in an interesting way. So I think that there's a technical and just a logical struggle here when it comes to the lighter color, the lighter part of the bike. The lighting for the initial reveal was not that interesting. It wasn't that flattering, but it was fine. At distance, the texture filtering makes details, you know, very hard to see. And also the YouTube compression is blurring the image. So that's my explanation. I think this looks very cool. We've never seen Samus in an outdoor area like this, like in a desert. So I'm interested to see where this goes. I've seen people that are upset that this doesn't feel like a Metroid thing, that it's so different from everything that's been before. But I like to see game series try new things. I'm wondering which Nintendo character will get their motorcycle next. Will Mario be the next one to get a motorcycle? Will a Pokemon game get a motorcycle? Will Donkey Kong? No, Donkey Kong just got a game and he didn't get a motorcycle. Let's get an Ice Climbers. Let's get an Ice Climbers reboot with a motorcycle. 2 motorcycles. Here's my pitch to Nintendo. Nintendo, if you're watching, my pitch to you: open world Ice Climbers game, and Nana and Popo join a motorcycle gang because they're having a midlife crisis, and then they ride motorcycles around a snowy landscape. There we go. Everybody's got to have a motorcycle now. Anyway, thanks very much. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Take care. I hope you're looking forward to more, seeing more from this game. I'll be creating more videos, taking a look at more of the things that were revealed in the Nintendo Direct. Take care, everyone. I'll see you around. And look out for that midlife crisis. It's going to hit you pretty hard. Just be careful for that. I'll see you.